For our market bag, we're going to use 1 1/3 yards of our outside fabric. We're going to use 1 1/3 yards of our lining fabric and a scrap of our handle. For our handle, we're going to cut it 4 1/2 inches by 7 1/2 inches. For our lining, we're going to cut it 15 1/2 by 45 1/2. And for our outside, we're going to cut it 15 1/2 by 45 1/2. You're going to lay your outside fabric on the table right side up. Then we're going to take our lining fabric and we're going to lay it on top, right sides together. Okay. And it's rather long, so I know the entire thing isn't in the screen. Okay. Then we're going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around, all 4 sides, and you want to leave a hole on one side big enough to shove your entire hand through. I usually put my hand on the fabric and then I'll put a pin here and here to know that my hand will go through. It'll save you a lot of time if you make sure your hand pulls through, especially on something this large. Then you're going to want to turn it right side out and press. Now that we have it turned and pressed, you're going to want to hand sew the opening closed. Then you're going to want to top stitch about 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch all the way around. And feel free to, instead of just using a straight stitch, use one of those fun decorative stitches on your machine. Okay, so the next part, I know it's a little hard to see. Hopefully once I fold it, you'll be able to see it. We're going to take the right side and we're going to fold it down so the triangle is facing me. Then we're going to go to the left side and we're going to make it so the triangle is facing up. Okay, so we've got one triangle facing up, one triangle facing down. Now we're going to take this triangle and we're going to flip it so it matches this point. So we're going to take this triangle and we're going to bring it up till it matches that point. Okay, now if we turn it this way, you can start to see our bag. Okay, now that these two are lined up here, we're going to lift them up and we're going to pin them together. Okay, so we're gonna lift them up and we're gonna pin them together. And this is a little awkward, I know, but you just kind of have to make it work. Okay. I'm going to do just a couple more pins just to make sure we hold it in place. Okay, once we have it pinned, we're going to flip it over. We're going to take the whole thing, we're going to flip it over, and if you lost this triangle, you can just kind of fold it back just like that. Okay, and then we're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to pin here and we're going to pin all the way down. All right, that decorative stitch with that red looks so nice. It kind of looks like the watermelon. I'm glad we chose that. One more on the edge here. Now we're going to take it over to our sewing machine. You're going to kind of lift it up like this and you're going to straight stitch this side. Then we're going to turn it over here to the other one. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to straight stitch this side. Now that we have that sewn, I went ahead and just kind of pressed it open just because I think it looks nice. Okay, now we're going to box the corners. So we're going to take this side and we're going to lay it flat, the side with our seam. We're just going to lay it flat. Okay, we're going to take our ruler, and I like the Creative Grids ruler because it has a 45-degree line running directly through it. We're going to take that 45-degree line and we're going to measure 2 inches from our seam. So you're not going to come down to the edge here. You're going to measure 2 inches from the seam. Okay, so I've got 2 from here to there, and we're going to draw a line, and we're going to sew directly on that line. Okay, but we're not going to trim it away. Since everything is nice and finished, we're just going to kind of leave that little flap there. Okay, then we're going to go to the other side. Okay, and we're going to lay it nice and flat. Okay, and I like to put it so I see where the seam is. And we're going to measure 2 inches up from our seam. And we're just going to go ahead and mark that, and we're going to sew directly on those lines. Now that we have those sewn, we're going to turn it right side out. Just kind of push up against them. Okay. And here's what the basic bag looks like. The only thing we have left to do is add our little handle. Okay, so we're going to start by taking our black piece of fabric, and we're going to turn the edges on the short sides under 1/4 inch. Then we're going to turn it right sides together, and we're going to stitch along the long edge using a 1/4 inch seam. After you have it sewn, I went ahead and ironed that seam open, and then you're going to turn it through one of the ends. It doesn't matter which one. They're both fully open. Okay. Alrighty. There we are. Okay. And make sure that if that seam that we folded over came out, you tucked it in a little bit. Then we're going to take one of our triangles, and we're going to tuck it down in. Okay. And I'm going to kind of scooch it so it goes about halfway inside. You might find it easier to use a safety pin for this part. I just manhandled it, and I kind of scrunched it up because I just thought it looked cute. And I'm going to pin it in place. Okay, then I'm going to take the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Just going to kind of scrunch it up in there, making sure that that raw edge was pushed down in. And I'm going to push it in until they meet. Kind of scrunch it up in there till they meet. Hope you can see this. I know I'm kind of manhandling it a bit here. Okay, so they're kind of scrunched up, and if you have to go back and forth and play with it till you get it where you think it looks cute, go ahead and do that. Okay, then we're just going to go ahead and we're going to straight stitch here along the edge here and along the edge here. You want to make sure you catch this raw edge on both sides. So you may end up wanting to do a zigzag stitch or something where you know you're going to catch both ends. But then that's all you have to do, and there it is done. Isn't that cute?